of participating in this kind of activity is that it helps me to feel connected to the land, to my own traditions and history, to my identity in the landscape, and to the wider world I live in. All in a magical way, so all in a way that isn't somehow going into some kind of la-la land of romanticism, but is rooted in the landscape, in the facts of history, in the astronomical fact of the solstice and of the changing, turning wheel of the year, and in the fact of my smallness in the face of the beauty and the immensity of the world and so on. Rooted in all these facts, and yet shot through with a sense of awe and wonder and magic. So that's an example, but let me take for this evening 4 particular features of this. Is everybody from around here? Has anybody come from further afield? You're from France?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in London.
You live in London? Yeah. Okay. But is everybody else from Sussex? Yes. Yeah? Yeah. You're not from Sussex? London. Okay, so some people from London. Anyway, so it's near enough. Near enough. So here's an example. What I've talked about how this landscape has got tumuli and chalk hill figures and holy wells and Romano-British temple sites, ancient churches, tomps and so on. It's wonderful. Let's take a few of these and talk about them just in the landscape within sort of radius of 15 miles around here. And let's see how we could use those as ingredients, like sort of cooks, as it were. Put these ingredients together and see how we could start to fashion a way of working in the world that helped us. So let's take as an example the 4 fire festivals: Imbolc, Beltane, Lunacy, Samhain. Imbolc on February the 1st, which in Christian tradition is Candlemas. Just the first stirrings of spring when the snowdrops come out of the earth, and you can just sense spring beginning. Round to Beltane, the 1st of May, hopefully when spring is really on its way. Through to Lunacy, the beginning of the first harvest, beginning of August. First harvest, the traditional time of marrying and meeting and communal games and activities. Round to Samhain, the time in the Christian tradition of Halloween, the time where we honour the ancestors, the time where we honour the process of death, where we think of our loved ones who've parted and departed and so on. So let's take Imbolc, February the 1st, and let's go on a walk. Where are we going to go to? Can I remember? To High and Over. Do you know that wonderful place, High and Over? There's a car park up there. You go along, and there's this chalk hill figure of a horse, and it was made fairly recently in the 1920s to commemorate a girl who died. A young girl who was riding on a horse and who fell over. But there are legends and stories about how there was a figure of a goddess in the landscape there. And there was an old shepherd who said that was a place called the Hill of Eve. And the long man was Adam, the Hill of Adam, you see. So these and actually, strangely enough, if you walk towards this hill from the other side, it looks exactly like a goddess with a tummy and thighs and everything, just in the landscape itself. And there, like a little sort of tattoo, here is this white horse. So you start from there, you look out to the east, and you see the 7 sisters, the cliffs, the white cliffs and the sea. You look down and you see the great snaking river of the Cuckmere. You look over to the left and you just see the waste of Ondred, that great plain between the South Downs and the North Downs. And you drop down and you walk for sort of 3 or 4 miles. It's a good walk. You drop down to the river, you cross over the river, you go up, and you go up Windover Hill, and you come to the Long Man. And if you time it right, you'll arrive at just the time when the local Druid group, the Anderida Gorseth, have begun their Imbolc ceremony. And they'll be doing the ceremony on that, you know that little flat hill in front of the Long Man? That the prosaic will tell us is from the spoils of the chalk pit, but we know that actually the god fashioned it himself as a special place for people to sort of worship him on this little sort of hill directly placed beneath his feet. And there you'll find a whole bunch of people doing a ceremony that you can join in, recognising this time of year, which is the time of first beginnings, it's the time of birth. It's connected with the birth of children. And when my old Druid teacher told me it was the first of the spring celebrations of the Druids, I sort of said, well, surely like February is an awful month, it's so cold and it's like the middle of the winter and all this thing. And he said, well no, if you look, you can just pick up the beginning of spring. That's true. And having celebrated this festival, if you're sensible, you will walk back to High and Over to get your car. If you're foolish, you'll follow the celebrants down to the Giant's Rest, the most Druid-friendly pub in Sussex. It's got a certificate on the wall to prove it. And you'll spend some time with the people there, and then you'll walk back up to High and Over. But it's a good walk. So it's 6 miles, 7 miles or something like that. But you've done a little bit of walking, and you've got in touch with the landscape, and you've celebrated this time of year. And you can, if you want to, the lovely thing about this as well is, in this kind of culture of the new, the sort of neophilic culture that we have, where everything's got to be new and different, there's a real beauty in appreciating tradition and repetition, so that you do this every year. You celebrate these festivals every year. So I've been celebrating them for 40 years now, and you don't get tired of it, because you're tuning in to this very special time of year. And a year is a long time, and you think back, what did I do at Imbolc last year? And you remember the time before when you celebrate, oh yes, it was snowing then, or whatever. So you have this kind of store of memories that, like a squirrel, you've got there, and you can think back on fondly and so on. So they build, the tapestry builds. And so it's a time as well when you tune into the beginning of the year, you plant seeds, you start to think of the ideas that you may have thought of at the beginning of the year as you look towards the year ahead. It's the time where you can start putting things into action and actually planting these seeds. All of these things. And you've gone from, in that one, you've gone from one chalk hill figure to another chalk hill figure. Now, at the time of Beltane, where are you going to go? Where are we going to go? In Beltane, we're going to go from down to the Italian Gardens. Sounds very similar, doesn't it? The Italian Gardens in Eastbourne for the 1st of May. And if you want a long walk, you could start at Burling Gap. You're not really wild spot there. Or if that's too long for you, Beachy Head. And walk down from Beachy Head down to the Italian Gardens, which is the western end of the seafront in Eastbourne, down to Holy Well, which is the beginning of the South Downs Way. And you go down there, and again, if you time it right, you'd arrive at the time of the Morris dancers doing their Morris dance. Now, you might agree with Sir Thomas Beecham, who says that you should try everything in life twice, except incest and Morris dancing. If you agree with him, don't go down at that time. Instead, sort of hang around Beachy Head and see if you can spot the ghost of Alistair Crowley climbing up Beachy Head. He was a great mountaineer, and once, to prove how good he was, he climbed the face of Beachy Head with no equipment, up chalk. Very foolish thing to do because it crumbles away and falls and the rest of it. But he scampered up. Try not to see the ghost of a lady in grey and a man in black, a monk in black, who beckoned, they apparently beckoned people over, because Beachy Head is sadly a place where lots of people jump off. So try to resist their temptations. Carry on. At this time of Beltane, this time of the meeting of the god and the goddess, of sun and moon, of fire and water, time of creativity and of mating. So if you go down by there, you know there's a little kind of tea house, isn't there? You know, do you know this place? There's the Dotto train or the Lotto train or something there that trundles along. It's a very magical little spot. There's some little beach huts, and you go around and it's quiet. It's right at the end of this long seafront of Eastbourne. The air is fantastic, and nobody's quite sure why it's called Holy Well. Some people say it's because the fresh water percolates through the cliffs and it appears just above sea level, down at the bottom there. and is healing and is good for you and so on, and it comes out in the spring, and that's why it's called Holy Well. Other people say it's called Holy Well because there was a holy man who lived there by the well. Other people associate it to holly and say there was a holly tree there, and it was the Holy Well and so on. But whatever the truth is, it's a special spot. And it marks the beginning of this great track, the South Downs Way, that goes all the way to Salisbury Plain. This vast, ritual, complex area that we have in southern England. In southern England, we've got, if you can imagine, a starfish that's slightly skewed. And we've got these 5 ridges that all move towards Salisbury Plain. There's the South Downs, the North Downs, the Marlborough Downs, and they're all converging on this place. And on Salisbury Plain, you have Avebury, Silbury Hill, the sort of replica of which, in a miniature sense, is in Lewes here, West Kennet Longbarrow, and also one of the most dangerous, well, probably the most dangerous place in Britain. You have a artillery range that has a huge amount of unexploded ordnance on it, and it's on top of Iron Age villages. So there's this incredible archaeological sort of treasure, but with masses of unexploded stuff on top of it, so they can't get at it. The military, the British Army Archaeological Unit, which I'd love to sort of see them at work. I have visions of them, with moustaches and glasses, with sort of, shells raining down at them, and then sort of finding bits of pottery and getting excited about them and sort of just ducking as it goes. But the archaeology unit has produced a massive report on this particular site in Britain. And the beginning of this ancient trackway to this huge ceremonial area is here at Holy Well. So to sit there, at Beltane, if you're lucky, the sun will be shining, and you'll have the white cliffs behind you, so the warmth of the sun will be strong, and you'll hear the sound of the sea. So you'll have the heat and the water and the fire mixing together inside your awareness, and you'll be at the starting point of this great place of pilgrimage. And then let's move around to Lunacy, the time of the harvest and the beginnings. And here we're going to walk to the Tump, the mount, which is just across over there, which is a phenomenon that one finds all over the world, actually. They're very strange. They're these artificial, man-made hills that have a particular angle and have completely flat tops. So they look as if they're made for sort of landing points for flying saucers almost. All sorts of theories about what they might be. There's a theory that they are excarnation hills, where bodies were taken and left either for the birds to deal with, or that they were sort of funnels into the other world. I don't profess to be clairvoyant at all, but I was once at an extraordinarily powerful spot called Sinistani. Has anybody been there in Peru? By Lake Titicaca. It's an incredible place. So there's a stone circle there, just like a stone circle in Britain. Perfect stone circle. And then a sort of Silbury Hill in a sacred lake. And I can almost sense this sort of funnel of light pouring up from this flat-topped hill. And I'm sort of pretty certain, I'd lay my money on the fact that when people died, they were actually put into strange, industrial-looking sort of funnels, huge funnel-like objects where the vultures would come in from the top and so on. But it's almost as if you could sense their spirits travelling from their bodies across this sacred lake to this structure from which they were transferred up to another level.